Hey everybody, welcome back to Whiteboard Finance. My name is Marco and I'm here to help you master your money and build your wealth. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the 7 financial goals for 2021 that I think most of you should be paying attention to. So happy New Year to everyone. I think this is going to be my first video after the new year. And I think that, people, they get all like excited and they want to say like new year, new me. And this is going to be the year that, I'm going to go on a diet and go to the gym, 5 times a week. And I'm going to better myself and all that stuff. And then by February 1st, March 1st, half the gym is empty, you're eating junk food again, and you broke all the resolutions that you made for the new year. So most New Year's resolutions fail because we get excited and motivated, but we don't have the discipline or the goals to actually see those goals through, okay? So in this video, I'm going to show you 7 goals that are simple to implement. I'm gonna tell you why these goals help, and then I'm also going to give you a bonus goal at the end of this video, so make sure you watch till the end. Thank you. Okay, so your first financial goal for 2021 is to have a fully funded emergency fund. So I know some of you are probably rolling your eyeballs and saying, oh, this is common knowledge. I learned this from Dave Ramsey 10 years ago. Everyone knows that you should have an emergency fund, right? Well, the why behind this is important, okay? This is basically your personal insurance policy against life. So we all know that life happens, okay? It could be a car repair, it could be a medical bill, it could be a dependent getting sick, it could be a job loss. The reason people have emergency funds is so they can sleep peacefully at night, okay? And this is why this is goal number 1. So an emergency fund should be anywhere from 3 to 12 months of living expenses depending on your life situation. And let me define my criteria for these. So for 3 months, basically if you are single or have no dependents, 3 months is perfectly fine. So if you just got your first big boy, big girl job, you're in your early 20s, for example, or if you don't have a significant other or a fiance or a spouse, and there are no dependents, meaning people that rely on you putting food into their stomach or providing shelter for them. This could be kids, it could be elderly parents, then you would fall into the 3-month category. The 4 to 5 month category is if you're in a serious relationship, if you're engaged, if you have someone such as a life partner, and then with no dependents for either one of you, 4 to 5 months is perfectly fine. 6 months, in my opinion, is when you have dependents. Okay, so these dependents, sorry, it's hard to write. Sorry if you can't read that. Dependents are basically, as I mentioned earlier, anyone that depends on food or shelter being provided by you for them. So this is kids, could be a sick relative, it could be someone that you're volunteering for, big brother, big sister, that kind of a thing. This is important because not only are you are expected to provide for yourself, you're expected to provide for someone else. That's why 6 months makes sense. Now, 12 months, a lot of people don't believe in this because a lot of people say, hey, Marco, I thought you said cash is trash, savers are losers because of low interest rates and high inflation. Well, that is true. However, this final category isn't probably going to apply to a lot of the people watching this video. However, commissioned salespeople and business owners, these are the people, I'll just say business, or unsteady income. Okay, so if you are a commissioned salesperson, you don't know when your next paycheck is coming from, or if you're a business owner and your income fluctuates or your income is not steady, 12 months in the bank should be adequate for this situation. Number 2 is tracking your net worth. So what gets measured gets managed. Tracking your net worth is tracking your financial health, okay? This is no different than tracking a workout routine, a diet, your performance at work. Think of your net worth as your financial thermometer. You can do this monthly, you can do it quarterly, you can do it yearly. My wife and I, we personally do it monthly. It takes 5-10 minutes, we update our spreadsheet, boom, we know exactly where we stand, where we improved, and where we kind of went off the rails. So I feel so strongly about tracking your net worth that I've dedicated the first entire course in my school, Whiteboard Finance University, to doing this. If you haven't signed up for the waiting list, check out the link down below. So tracking your net worth is very easy. You basically list all of the assets. These are things that you own that have value. You list all of your liabilities, so this could be debt or things like that, and you subtract your liabilities from your assets and you get your net worth. The next step to taking this to the next level is categorizing all of your assets. So you can have stocks, bonds, real estate, precious metals, cryptocurrency, anything like that. You categorize them and then you divide that asset category, the amount, by your net worth. So let's do a quick example here. So if I have, if my net worth is $100,000 for easy numbers, and I have $20,000 in stocks, I know that 20% of my net worth is in equities, okay? What you wanna do is you wanna assign a goal for all of these different categories, and that way your portfolio is never out of whack because you know, hey, I wanna have 20% of my net worth in stocks, I wanna have 20% in real estate, I wanna have 10% here, and that way you can always rebalance your portfolio accordingly. Financial goal number 3 is to pay off high interest rate debt. So the reason for this is because paying off high interest rate debt is smart, and I'll explain why here in a second. Paying off low interest rate debt doesn't really make sense right now in this interest rate environment, especially with our monetary policy with trillions of dollars of money printing, which is outside the scope of this video, but I'll explain here in a second. So when you pay off your debt, you are making a risk-free, tax-free, guaranteed rate of return. You don't have to pay taxes by paying off debt, and you are also making a guaranteed rate of return by paying off that debt with whatever the interest rate is. So what is considered high interest rate debt? So I would consider right now anything that's 5% or higher, it makes sense to pay that off first, even before you start investing. So I know a lot of people here are saying, hey, I made 1 billion% on Tesla, I made 1 bajillion% on Bitcoin, which I understand that completely. However, you have to realize those rates of return are not guaranteed, okay? This is guaranteed. So if you have a credit card that's 12%, for example, and you pay that thing off, you are making a guaranteed risk-free, tax-free rate of return. Make sense? Now, let's go back to my original comment where I said paying off low interest rate debt may not make sense right now. So here's an example. If I have a 30-year fixed rate mortgage and my interest rate is 2.5%, and I know I can beat that in the market all day long with something that makes, 6, 7, 8, 10%, which the stock market has done historically, then it makes sense to take those dollars, make the minimum payment on the mortgage, and invest the difference. Now, the other part to that is you have to realize that we live in an inflationary monetary system, meaning that inflation is typically 2 to 3% per year, while we're earning 0.5, for example, in our savings accounts, and that's in a high yield savings account. So when I'm paying off 2020 debt, AKA my 2020 mortgage, I'm doing so with inflated dollars from the future, making this purchase even less expensive, if that makes sense. Okay, so financial goal number 4 is to automate your savings. The reason this is important is because paying yourself first is the easiest way to save money. It's there without you even thinking about it. It goes away, you don't have the ability to spend it, and you're paying yourself first before all your bills, before going out, before doing all that good stuff, right? So I'll explain to you how this works. So I personally use a Capital One 360 savings account. I have it deducted from my checking account into 5 different buckets, and I'll share those buckets right now. You don't have to use these, but these are the 5 areas of my life that are important. So number 1 is a travel fund. Number 2 is an emergency fund. Number 3 is a house fund. Number 4 is a car fund, and number 5 is for investing. So the way you calculate this is you typically take 10 to 20% of whatever you earn, and you take that from an ACH deposit or ACH transfer. This can all be done automatically, and it goes from your checking to your savings. Boom, you just save 10 to 20% of your income without even knowing it. And as time goes on, these buckets start to fill up, and you don't have to rob yourself to go on a vacation. You literally just take it from the bucket that you saved for, or the fund that you saved for. Make sense? Okay, number 5 is the fun part. This is where we actually start investing. So we're tracking our net worth, we set up our foundation with an emergency fund, we're doing all this good stuff, saving, all that good stuff. Now we can finally invest, right? So number 5 is investing. So why is this important? Okay, going back to the theme of your purchasing power is being eroded by inflation and low interest rates and crazy monetary policy, at least at the time of this recording and probably for the foreseeable future. You have to realize that if you aren't investing, you are literally losing money through inflation. Your purchasing power is being eroded. So this is how you preserve your wealth and increase your purchasing power, or at least maintain it over time. So I'm gonna go in order from a logical perspective. You don't have to agree with all these. This is just what I'm doing personally. So if you have an employer match in your 401k, if you or your spouse can do that, I highly recommend that, because that's essentially free money with the portion that they match. And that's what I would contribute up to. Then I would fully fund a Roth IRA. This is using after-tax money, which means that you can even take out the principal before 59 and a half, and also for special use cases like buying a first home and things like that. This is almost like a glorified savings account. If you don't know about Roth IRAs or 401ks, I have a million videos on my channel about them. Number 3 is creating a taxable investing account. So you should actually, I highly recommend you check out my Stock Market for Beginners course. I made that absolutely free, and I'll probably leave that somewhere up here or in the description below. It's literally a 1-hour course, and it teaches you the basics of buying stocks. Right now, you can get a free stock on Robinhood. If you want to do that, check out my description below. And I also have a free training for M1 Finance if you're interested in investing that way. Number 4 is real estate investing, REI. So real estate, you can either buy an investment property, you can use a service like FUNDRISE where you crowdfund different projects. There's a million different ways to invest in real estate, but those are just 2 quick examples. This is typically preserved wealth, and this is typically where a bunch of rich people park their money. So if you look at like Chinese in Vancouver, they bought up all the real estate. If you look at people in Manhattan, half those apartments are empty. It's just to preserve value or preserve wealth. Number 5 is Bitcoin. I'm automatically going to get downvoted for this, but if you're not intelligent enough to at least research this space for a year, please don't comment, please don't downvote. I'll just leave that at that. And then number 6 is precious metals. You know, this is a hedge against inflation typically. These are your golds, your silvers, things like that. Most people say gold is a shiny rock that doesn't do anything. It doesn't throw off a dividend, doesn't throw off interest, but this is typically used as a hedge against inflation. So this is similar to what I'm investing in, and I dive more deeply into my school, Whiteboard Finance University, about this stuff. Number 6, we're gonna play some defense with life insurance. So I hate talking about life insurance. It's kind of a morbid subject, but it is a reality of life. So I do feel like I have an obligation to my audience to talk about it. I'm not an insurance salesman. I don't get compensation for this. I don't care if you have insurance or not. However, it is important because this essentially replaces your income in the event of you losing your income through death, okay? It is a reality of life. Stuff happens. So if you don't have dependents, most of you can skip this section right to the number 7. If you do have dependents, which we defined earlier, then it makes sense to just hear this out real quick. So as I mentioned earlier, this replaces your income in the event of your death or the loss of your income. So typically what is a good rule of thumb is to determine how many years or how long you want to take care of your quote unquote family. Typically this is till kids turn 18 or they're able to earn a living wage, if you will. But what's recommended typically as a rule of thumb is 10 to 12 times your annual income. So if you make $100,000 a year, this should be between $1 and $1.2 million. There's a big debate between term life insurance and whole. Just know that term life insurance, you're typically renting the policy for a certain amount of years for a certain amount. So let's call it $1 million for 20 years or $1 million for 10 years, for example, versus whole where there's a cash value. There's a lot of different things that I don't want to go into in this video specifically. If you are looking for a quick quote on term life insurance, check out Haven. They're associated with some pretty big insurers out there, and I'll leave a link in the description below. Okay, so number 7 is continuing education. So I broke this down into beginner, intermediate, and advanced, okay? These are just a couple different resources. I have a bunch of videos talking about the 7 finance books that changed my life and a lot of other recommendations. However, just for the sake of this video, I'm gonna break this down very quickly. So a good beginner resource is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's a very cliche book. It's very highly recommended. The reason I say that because it's an excellent book. So basically, this gets you in the mindset of understanding assets versus liabilities. So once you understand that assets bring income into your life every month versus liabilities which take money away from you, that's when you'll understand the paradigm shift in your brain as an investor or as a better advocate of your money. Number 2 is Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey, I put him in the beginner category because he's basically, he really is Finance 101. He's burn more calories than you consume and you'll lose weight. It's like, oh, really? I had no idea. So people outgrow Dave very quickly. He's kind of like Alcoholics Anonymous for finance. Intermediate is The Intelligent Investor. The Intelligent Investor is an excellent book written many, many years ago. It gives you an excellent primer on understanding equities, aka stocks, and it's basically the Bible of value investing. Some of the things are outdated just because of the policy or modern monetary policy, but it's still an excellent foundation for becoming a better investor. This one, Bigger Pockets right here, if you're not familiar, it's an excellent real estate investing resource. They have a great YouTube channel, podcast, and forum. I've personally used Bigger Pockets for 7 or 8 years now, I think since 2012, 2013. And then finally, this is self-promotional, but I don't care because it's true. Advanced is Whiteboard Finance University. Not only do I cover beginner and intermediate stuff in Whiteboard Finance University, I also cover advanced topics such as financial modeling, discount cash flows, all this stuff. We talk about spreadsheets, commercial real estate, economics, big picture stuff. So big brain stuff in the university. If you haven't joined the waiting list, please do so below. Okay, so here's the last section, the bonus section. Thank you so much for staying this long if you have to this point. I'm not some motivational speaker. I'm not trying to make this super cheesy or cliche more than it already is, but I truly believe in this. You do need to invest in yourself. You can only save your money so much before you get to a point where life isn't enjoyable, you're super cheap, no one really likes hanging out with you, that kind of a thing. You have to realize that you may get wealthy or build a couple $1,000,000 by the time you're 60, 70, 80 years old. However, in order to achieve generational wealth and really build wealth early on so that you have time to compound that money, your income is your biggest wealth building tool. So you need to learn how to make more money by bringing more value into the marketplace, okay? So here's some quick ideas. It's 2021 now. If you have the internet, you have the ability to start a business, okay? It's as simple as that. You can start a blog, you can start a YouTube channel, you can start a podcast, you can start a side business. There's so many different creative ways to make money now, it's not even funny. If you don't want to go the entrepreneurship route, that's completely fine. You can still use the internet or you can still use this technology to build skills. People have been in lockdown for a long time now due to everything going on with health and everything, but that hasn't stopped a lot of my friends from getting certifications online, from continuing their formal education, working even overtime, for example. So you can either get there through ideas or through hard work and by becoming more certified and credible in your profession. So thank you for sticking around for the bonus. I think this is the most important one. As always, please check out my school, Whiteboard Finance University. I'm not trying to become too salesy with that, but it is very important and it is something I'm very passionate about building over time. At the end of the day, I hope you got value out of this. Please give it a like if you haven't already and share the video with one friend. Thank you so much and have a prosperous day. Oh, I'm smoked. The whiteboard's back, baby. I'm a little bit rusty, I've been used to my other studio right behind the camera, which I'm sure you guys have seen. Check out my stock market for beginners video. Unbelievable video. That took me like 2 hours to record. It's an hour long, massive value, and it's absolutely free. A little bit rusty in front of the whiteboard. This lighting is kind of crazy, but we're back, baby. We're back, baby. Let's go.